Hey, what's up YouTube? Lone Wolf Trucker back at you with another video. And I just want to I guess YouTube is the best place as any to drop all your personal trucking experiences, I guess. So I got another story for you guys. This one I'm going to go over how I almost got booted out of TMC orientation. All right, and I'm gonna go over that story here in a bit, but I kind of want to align what you can expect, because I know a lot of you guys are, either new to TMC, new to trucking, looking at trucking, looking to come to trucking, looking to get your CDL or what have you. So I'm going to try to paint a little picture for you guys that are looking to come to TMC, haven't come to TMC. So the rest of you guys that may already know this, kind of have some patience with me as I walk everybody through this process, so that we can all be on the same page when I tell you how I almost got kicked out of orientation. So without further ado, let me just kind of break down the process. So, and I'm talking about this as from my experience, but I'm explaining how it is. All right, so this is what I went through. So once you get the green light to go to TMC, which I did, right, and then from there you're either going to get a rental, somebody's going to pick you up in a rental, or however you're going to get, or you're going to drive yourself to the training facility. Now, I've already mentioned that I did training in Columbia, South Carolina, so that's specifically what I'm talking about. But they do training, I know, out of headquarters, out of Des Moines, and maybe one or two other locations. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, but I do know for sure Columbia, South Carolina, where I trained out of, obviously I was training because I went through it and done it, and I know that corporate does up in Des Moines. Outside of that, I'm not too sure if there are other training facilities, but nevertheless, let's get into some details here. So orientation is 2 weeks, right? My orientation was 2 weeks. I believe it's still 2 weeks to this day. But once you get your rental or what have you, me personally, I got the rental, and I actually had to pick somebody up and bring them up to Columbia with me. I'm coming up from Georgia to South Carolina. The person I picked up already went through orientation, already finished up with their trainer for the 5 weeks, and they were coming back to test out on that Monday, the same Monday that I'm set to start orientation. So I get there to the training facility, park up the rental car at the hotel for the night. Basically ran out and got some supplies to last at least for the first week that I was going to be there, because I was going to be there the whole 2 weeks straight, and then plan on going back to Georgia for that weekend. So I was there for 2 weeks straight pretty much. So your first day of orientation, just to let you guys know, come to orientation with your shit correct, all right? I'm not going to say TMC is a militant or military company. By any means, it's kind of far from that, but it does have that kind of military essence, if you understand what I mean. I'm prior military, so it wasn't really a big deal for me to, get acclimated to that type of environment. Some of you guys that haven't been through that, like I've seen people in my orientation that weren't used to that type of environment, found themselves going home rather quickly, right? And it really started from Monday morning. You had guys that, were late for the bus, missed the bus, figured out some way how to, Uber or however they got to the training facility, arrived late, wound up getting sent home, and this is just from, we're not even there one day yet, right? So when you come to orientation, especially at TMC, come correct. Have your shit in order. Don't come there, missing the bus or arriving late or what have you. Make sure you got your shit correct. But I didn't get booted for that reason, or almost get booted, I should say. So once you, your first day there, you're going to go through, a bunch of tests, piss tests and all that stuff, and get all that out the way. But pretty much it's going to be heavy on computer training. I believe it was like for 3 or 4 days straight. Just back-to-back tests on the computer, and during the evening you kind of swap out on the yard. So you'll have backing maneuvers that introduce you to that. Usually I believe it's your first or second night that you're there, and you're pretty much there all day, you know, from morning to night, you know, sun up to sundown, you're there. During the day, you're in the classroom. At night, you're out on the pad practicing. That's your first week. And for the first week, it didn't go bad for me, right? I was knocking out the computer training. It is a lot of training, I give you that. I kind of fell behind a little bit on that, trying to multitask and get stuff done. But I was able to wind up catching up and getting all that computer stuff out of the way, so I could focus on that next phase, which is doing your yard maneuvers out in the back of the classroom. So from that point, you know, I pretty much had everything down pat, you know, doing the backing maneuvers. But for me, I don't have an auto restriction on my CDL, and I never really drove a truck before I went to CDL school. Now, my dad was a truck driver for many years, and I did kind of play around with his truck, and this is years ago, all right? I'm over 50 years old at this point, so we're talking in the 70s when I was playing around with his truck. But that's the extent of it. So when you're in this orientation, it's basically a 2-week interview process, right? From the moment you get there, even by the time you get to the hotel, there's people watching you, right? They're observing you. It's a non-stop from the time you get there to the time you leave. And even when you get with your trainer, you got a 5-week assessment that you got to get through. So kind of keep in mind that when you go to orientation, it's an interview process for 2 weeks, right? So don't go there slacking or slacking up. Stay focused on what you got to do. Another thing is, you know, I had a lot of guys that would go out at night. They go drink and get hammered, go to the strip club and all kinds of stuff, and come back, you know, fucked up for class the next day and wind up getting booted out of orientation. So don't let that be you. That's not what happened to me. I did kind of hang out a little bit, but I, you know, for the most part, tried to stay focused on the task at hand, which was to complete orientation and move to the next phase of getting out with my trainer. So I didn't really party hardy too much, right? Couple drinks here and there, and that was it. But as you go through that first week, like I said, you know, the backing maneuvers and all that wasn't really hard for me to do. I had enough of that practice in CDL school, but unfortunately with my CDL school, and this is pretty much, I believe, with any CDL school, they get you prepared to pass that road test with DOT, right? When you go down to the DMV to take your road, that's their focus of getting you trained to be able to pass that test. Not really how to drive a truck, in my opinion. So when I got to TMC, I really didn't know how to drive a semi-truck, right? I knew the basics enough to get me to pass the test. By the way, I failed the test multiple times, the DMV test for my CDL license, but obviously I'm here. I finally wound up passing and getting my license all during the whole, you know, COVID, you know, thing. But when you're at TMC, and what happened with me, that first week wasn't that bad on the pad and all that stuff. Really, my problems came in week number 2, right? Because week number 2, you're done with the classroom. All right, you're out, you know, in the morning. They kind of, you know, flip-flop schedules. So, you know, a group of you will be on the road in the morning, and then you have lunch, come back for lunch, and then if you were out in the morning, then you'll be in the yard on the pad practicing for the afternoon. If you were on the pad in the morning, then you'll be out driving in the afternoon. So it kind of flip-flops. That's how they did it at Columbia. So for me, you know, my problems came week 2, right? I kid you not. I don't have an auto restriction, so I'm forced to drive a manual truck, right? I wasn't an automated truck, as they should say. It was a manual truck. And outside of CDL school, I never drove a manual truck, really, like I said, except for playing with my dad's truck years ago. So that was a challenge for me, right? And that's what almost got my ass booted the hell out of orientation. You know, I was struggling with the manual shifting and getting that down pat. And you know, for you guys that have an auto restriction on your license, you may not have that problem. But for me, that's the problem that I had, right? And You know, it's kind of like playing golf. If you ever play golf, you know, one day you'll be doing great, and the next minute, you know, the next day you suck. So that's what happened with me. You know, one day I think I'd have it down pat, and the next day I would suck out on the road. You know, at one point, you know, I had stopped at a light on a hill, and good thing there was no cars behind me, because I almost rolled all the way back down the damn hill because I, you know, couldn't get the truck. It was in gear, obviously, but every time I tried to get the truck moving forward, it would start bucking and wind up shutting off on me. So it was a challenge for me, right? And now you got your instructor sitting in that passenger seat grading you, right? And if you don't meet the cut, right, they're gonna send your ass home. So for me, that's what almost got my ass kicked out of orientation, is because I couldn't get down that manual shifter. So they have something they call shifting road in South Carolina. We went back out there, started practicing some more on that. And good thing, you know, I had some trainers that kind of worked with me a little bit to kind of help me understand the shifting pattern a little better. Because coupled with the nervousness of, you know, this large semi truck that you are not comfortable with, even though the thing is empty, right? You got and some of them had concrete slabs on the back of them, but the one I had was empty. Thank goodness. But even with an empty truck and you're at, you know, 32,000 pounds, it's still a little bit of a challenge if you haven't drove a semi before. So for me, Lone Wolf Trucker almost didn't make the cut with TMC. I almost got my ass booted because I was having trouble with the manual shifting and getting that down pat. And as you go through orientation, what I found as I went through my process of those 2 weeks, man, they're letting people go every day. From day one, you know, from the people that were late getting on the bus, to people that didn't pass the piss test, to people that, you know, couldn't pass the computer assessments, to you name it, whatever it was, to, you know, people that were there that, you know, come into the classroom all effed up, you know, from the night before. You know, they didn't take the orientation serious, they were let go. So I forget how many people started with me, but a lot of people didn't make the cut. All right, a lot of people were dropping like flies, and Lone Wolf Trucker was almost one of those flies that got dropped, because, like I said, I was having trouble with the shifting. I finally got it down pat late in my second week, you know, because Friday was the graduation, and, you know, you get your TMC shirt. I actually got mine, I guess, up in my laundry bag up there, but you get a shirt at your graduation on your final day when you make the cut. But right up until that Friday morning, there were still people getting cut. They didn't make the cut. They were getting let go, right? Now, either they, you know, drove themselves back home, got I believe TMC will give you a Greyhound ticket or whatever, but you're not going to be getting the courtesy rental back home. You'd have to go get your own rental. So just want to share that story with you guys of how I almost got booted out of orientation. Hopefully this gives you some insight and some a little more clarity on the TMC orientation, at least for Columbia. If you got any questions, you know, feel free to, you know, drop your comments down below. Like I said, I've been answering you guys' questions that when you guys hit me up in the comment section, and those of you guys that reach out to me. My email is thelonewolftrucker@gmail.com. But that's my story, guys, of how I almost got booted out of orientation. As you can see, I did make the cut. I'm still here. I'm driving, you know, solo in my own truck. And I'm on 10 months at TMC, still loving flatbed and loving what I do. But that's my story, guys, and this is the Lone Wolf Trucker out. Peace.